Here we go. Okay, welcome everybody to the Thriving Creative. I am your host, Gabrielle Senza, and this is where art, money, and pleasure meet because I believe that these are three key ingredients to being able to live a really juicy, abundant, creative life. And if that sounds good to you, then this is the place to come every Tuesday at 2. And then they are loaded up to YouTube so you can catch them anytime, day or night, from the comfort of your own home, whenever you wish. And I would love to hear from you. Subscribe, like, share, put comments in the comment section. Tell me what resonated, tell me what didn't resonate. Uh, Let me know how you're feeling about it. It's a labor of love, and I am thrilled to do it. And this year, in fact, just this week, I have put together a whole year's worth of programming for the show. And I really hope that it resonates with artists and creative entrepreneurs, heart-centered business owners. They don't have to specifically be artists or musicians or sculptors or poets. Um, it's really for anyone that is, on this sort of creative path because you're moved by art, you are moved by nature, you are moved by musicians, artists, and it lights you up. So if that sounds good to you, then I think you might be in the right place. And if not, I love you anyway. So welcome again to the Thriving Creative. And I'm Gabrielle Senza, your host. I'm an artist, an activist, an empowerment coach, a performance artist, many different hats I wear. And I have been on this journey as a creative person pretty much since birth. I was drawing and making pictures and singing and all that kind of thing from the time I was really little, really, really small. And I have been a professional artist in the art world since the, wow, when, late 80s, I guess. Yeah. I had my first show in 1989 and my first solo show in New York in 1991, I think. Or maybe it was 93. I can't remember now. Anyway, it's unimportant. The point is that I've been in this space for a very long time, and I just have this desire to share the kinds of things that I find helpful for me as a professional in this space, and things that I wished I had known earlier before I became a professional, and as I was just getting started. Although a lot of things are relevant to what's really present and exciting for me now as well. So, where to begin? This episode is called Artistic Evolution, and it's about navigating change in our careers. And I wanted to talk about how, you're aware of the fact that change is inevitable in this state as humans in a body on the universe, on the planet, and things shape, things change, things move, and I kind of like to think of it, creativity and life, as a river. We can never go back to where we started. We never go back to being that embryo, right? And we are constantly growing and expanding and flowing. And sometimes when things aren't going the way we expected them to, or when we want it the way we wanted them to, and there's some kind of change that we're really not thrilled about, we try to hold on. We try to hold on really hard to what was, the dream, the life, the whatever what was. And we try to hold on really, really as strongly as we can instead of letting go and flowing with where we're being taken. And I just ran into a stranger on the street the other day, and she used this phrase, which I found so helpful. It's called let go or be dragged down. So she was like talking about how in her life and in her divorce, she learned from a wise elder, like to let go or be dragged. Like, it's just It doesn't work out if you just hold on, hold on, and grip. So the idea is to just let go and trust. Trust the universe has your back. Trust that you will be taken care of. Yes, you might get some bumps along the way. In fact, this makes me think about, here I am going to completely off script as usual. In Maine, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to have an artist residency. And as we were driving to the place where the residency was to be, this old farmhouse that had been in the family for many generations, we crossed this beautiful wire bridge over the river. And I thought, wow, that's so beautiful. That's so incredible. I hope we can come back here and do a shoot with that gown, my gown, the Terra Luna gown, um, and do, one of these trance performances and get some beautiful photos and images from the experience, from the trance performance. When I say trance performance, I mean it's like I am in a trance, and the dress is sort of propelling me forward and having me do what it wants me to do. And so in this case, we did eventually get to the river, and I was wearing the dress. And she's now named Terra Luna. The dress is named Terra Luna, and I am just the body that happens to animate the dress when she decides she wants something to happen. So she uh, she wanted me to crawl along this like dirt road, really slow crawling in this beautiful long white gown. And I just know that she's on this long, slow crawl. And I'm not quite sure what that crawl is yet. I still, after all these years, do not know for sure. But there's something about nature and the environment and the connection between humans and the earth, the environment, um, all that gives us life, really. And so, where was I? So, anyway, we got the opportunity to go to the river. She had me crawling along this dirt road on my hands and knees, essentially. And then she's like, well, now you have to run back and forth across um this bridge, which it's a wire bridge. So it's like all these wires are suspending this bridge that you can actually drive across. And so it was a pretty hot day in July or August, I think. So I was going back and forth and back and forth, and my friends were photographing me doing these things and trying to catch as much of it as possible. And then eventually Terra Luna has me go down to the river, and she's standing there, and then just this feeling like, okay, it's time to get in the water. It's time to get in the water. So I evidently, this is all told to me, and I've seen it in the photos, but you'll get this in a few moments. Hang on there. So what's going to happen? What happened was I went into the river, and it was very cold, and I walked out to the middle. It was not very deep. Um, and I guess there are photos of me draping myself over this rock, and then eventually dropping into the water. And there are these beautiful photographs of just the dress puffing up this with the air as I'm, submerging myself into the water, and it's quite gorgeous. And then I guess I started floating down the river head first, so not aware of where I was going really. And eventually I stopped and got out and up onto another rock and was doing things there. Again, this is all documented. The reason I keep saying that is because I literally don't remember any of it. I don't remember any of it because evidently when I went into that water, I my body had some kind of reaction to the cold after all that heat and that movement. And so I had when I came out of the water, I wasn't responding to my friends who were trying to get me to come out. Um, and I wasn't responding at first. And eventually I came out and they were bringing me up and out of the water and over to the car to get me out of the wet clothes. And they walk me up to the car and it's my partner's car. And I was like, what is Dan's car doing here? And they looked at me like, what? You drove it here. We came over together. Um, well, but why? Why would his car be in Vermont? And I was, for some reason, thinking we were in Vermont and not in Maine. So they were like really confused by this. They get the wet clothes off me and they get me into more clothes, dry clothes, and we head back to the farmhouse. And apparently, for the next hour or two or three, I don't know how long it was, I just kept asking these questions like, why was Dan's car there? And why, how long are we here for? Are we here in Vermont for a while? Like, when did we get here? And what are we doing here? Like, I knew who I was, but I didn't understand really where I was or why we were there. And and I I guess I also said, it would be really cool if I had brought my gown and we did the shoot in that river. And they're like, we just did that. And I was like, no, 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 we couldn't have. I would remember the sensation of like dropping into the water and I'd feel it on my arms, under my arms and all of this. And they're like, no, Gabrielle, literally we did. Here are the photos. And they're showing me the photos. And then a few minutes would go by and then I would start the same thing over. Like, too bad I didn't bring my dress. We could do a shoot in the river. That would be really great if we had time to do a shoot in the river. And so they were just like, oh my God, what has happened to this person? So the host of this residency, Rachel Jodorowsky, went to research a little bit and she found out that most likely what I was experiencing was what's it called? Transient global amnesia. Transient global amnesia. And so what happens then is that a whole section of time can be a few minutes to several hours. I don't think it goes beyond days, but maybe where the memory is just completely cleared out. There's just no recollection of those hours. And so that's what happened to me. And it was really bizarre, really bizarre. Why am I telling you that? The change that we flow down the river. We go down the river. Creativity is like a river. And that really, we just, it's, I guess the idea here is to just emphasize how important it is to accept that we will go through changes and that our work will go through changes. I used to be known as a painter of industrial landscapes and then eventually of more bucolic, moody nature scenes that were quite beautiful and stunning. And then since then, I've gotten much more into socially engaged art practice, where I'm working with people in spaces and time and engaged in conversations around things that matter to me and that I think are important to others as well, such as visibility and invisibility. Like, when do you feel invisible? When have you felt invisible? And these kinds of things, as well as running empowerment workshops with women who have been sexually or emotionally or physically abused, and they're in recovery and they're in shelters and they're seeking help and growth, and to help them find their strength, their inner beauty again. Because if you don't know, if you've never been in a situation like that, that all of these things about our own self-worth and our capacities, our capabilities, everything about us is like so destroyed, so eliminated and ground down or erased, and so to recover from that and find self-empowerment, or to self-empower ourselves, and to build our personal strength, our emotional strength back up to find beauty again in the world and to be able to trust people again. It's really quite a journey. It's a really extremely challenging journey. Why did I bring that up? I guess, just to say like that it's a big shift, a big change from where I was when I was doing paintings in the studio by myself all the time of industrial landscapes or bucolic landscapes. And so yes, our work often changes. And if you think of, for example, even like Picasso, he had his blue period and his Harlequin period and his Cubist time. And, we go through these places, these changes. And David Bowie, right? Ziggy Stardust and, his different personas that he was able to create and bring into the world, which could help, infuse his music. So he wasn't always doing the same thing forever and ever, right? Because who wouldn't get bored of doing the same thing over and over again? So that's all to say, like, change is inevitable, is encouraged. Actually, I encourage it, and it's to be embraced. It's to be is celebrated. Sometimes changes come about that are unexpected, uh, perhaps because of some tragedy, or like I'm thinking about the artists in Asheville, whose homes and studios have been destroyed. I mean, their lives are just, devastated. They're no longer what they once were. And, this happened with Hurricane Katrina and, countless other storms, natural disasters, things like that. So, then you're basically starting from nothing, right? Scratch. And it all becomes about survival at the moment. Like the main focus is about survival and where will we go live next and how will we rebuild and all of those kinds of pressures. And so naturally they're not going to be painting or creating the kind of art they were doing up until the moment of the storm coming and devastating the whole city, the whole place. So uh, you know whether it's a self-imposed change, like just as a creative exercise, uh, or from some, basic life experience, or whether it be a tragedy or somebody might become ill in your family, and then you find, I know so many artists who found themselves being caretakers for their parents, their aging parents, for many, many years, and they were no longer creating art in the same way. They didn't have the time, the space, the energy. And oftentimes what breaks my heart there is that they they start thinking that they can't call themselves artists anymore. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. No, you are, once an artist, you're always an artist. It doesn't disappear. You know what I mean? It doesn't go away. And whether you're literally making art or you are literal or you're constantly taking care of other people, it doesn't make you no longer an artist. It just doesn't. That you have the artist's heart, the artist's soul. And so there's creativity living within you at all times, no matter what's happening, whether it's a disaster or a long-term illness, that you're helping someone through or that you may have experienced yourself. You don't stop being an artist. You might stop making artwork as you used to define it, but that doesn't mean you're not an artist anymore. So I just wanted to bring that in, because I run into that a lot. A lot of different artists, some artists who become parents, they sometimes will say that they never get to make art, and so they're no longer an artist anymore. It's like, no, that's not true. Whether you're making art or not making art, you're still an artist. So I think that's a really important thing for people to think about and to remember. Okay, I'm looking over here at my notes too, because I know I've gone off track many times already. And I want to make sure that I do mention Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This is an important one. So, um, thinking about, well, I briefly mentioned creating self-imposed changes or challenges or whatever you want to call them. So, for example, if you begin to feel like your work is getting stale, or for example, you haven't been making work at all for a while, but you want to start doing something again. So some ideas are like set yourself some kind of limitation, some kind of um, challenge. Like, for example, uh, doing all your work in one color. When I did a residency in Rome, Italy, uh, I spent the whole time experimenting, making these little experimental paintings, just based on things I was seeing in the city or finding in the stairwell or whatever. And then also I started this whole series of paintings that I did only with cadmium red paint, nothing else, no other colors. And that was so refreshing for me because um, it was it was such a departure from like the carefully rendered architectural things I had been doing, like the industrial landscapes, um, and the paintings that had, landscape based things. And instead, I was able to explore more, more interior ideas as well as observations, like social critique on like what I was seeing in the world. Um, so that led to the Amore Roma, the Seeing Red series that I did, and eventually turned a bunch of those images into an artist book, all using just the cadmium red paint on paper. Yeah, Seeing Red. And then those led to another series of pieces that I don't know that I could have gotten there directly from the painting. Like it flowing with the changes that were happening in my life. Um, the residency was preceded by a divorce. And so then I was flowing along and I had committed to doing an exhibition of my paintings, my large scale paintings of landscapes. And yet I did end up doing them in Rome eventually. But in the beginning, I just needed to experiment and to play and to try new things. So I was trying new things, doing these tiny little paintings, doing these red paintings, and really just being in the world, being in the world. And actually, now that I think about it, I think about how that led to my being in the world even more as an artist through my social practice uh, that you developed eventually after that as well. So let's see what else. So yeah, you could set yourself a challenge, a limitation. I was just thinking yesterday about how structure doesn't limit us. It actually creates more creativity, like generates more creative solutions and flows. Like the water in a river. My voice is getting hoarse. Um, Water in the river, right, will flow around rocks, will flow up and over around any obstacles that are there, and shapes the river and shapes the rocks and all of that. And so when we have structure, it it gives us the ability to find new solutions that we might not have gotten to without the structure in place, without the limitation in place. Right. So any circumstance, any situation that feels like a limitation is actually an opportunity for more creativity. Right. So I really love that. I found that to be so true. And especially recently, like I'm becoming more and more aware of that. What else did I want to share? Let's see. Oh, and then I'm thinking about artists like Frida Kahlo and Jean-Michel Jean-Michel Basquiat, who basically used their own struggles in life, in the pain and limitations that they each had to incorporate into their work. And what I love so much about that is that, well, so many amazing things happen from that. One is that it brings the lived experience into the spotlight. Not in a sense of like, I experienced this and I want to brag about it. No, not like that at all. It's sort of like, I am experiencing this and this is what it feels like, or I experienced that and this is what I've learned from it. And that is expressed creatively through painting or films or whatever it is that people are making. So using those challenges in your work is so divine, so beautiful. It doesn't have to be obvious that you're drawing upon, experiences from your past, but they can be. You can write about that or incorporate that into your work somehow. And the other thing I like about that is that it allows others who see the work to be able to um, kind of identify with it and say like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. That happened to me too. Or they could be inspired like by Frida, with despite all the pain she was in, she was still painting. And so that can be really inspirational for other people who might be struggling with emotional or physical struggles that they're going through. So it can be very uplifting for other people, as well as healing and helpful for the person doing it, right? So this is a beautiful thing that I definitely encourage you to try if you haven't already. What else did I want to see or mention? All right, let's see. Yeah, and then on top of that, finally, like, to don't beat yourself up for whether you're making art, not making art, or making art that you don't like, or making art that you love and nobody's seeing it. It's all just part of the journey. It's all part of the process. And we get to learn so much from each of these experiences. We get to learn like how do I respond to this? How do I learn from this? What can I do differently? What can I try next? So there are all these ways to look at these experiences that we have. And yeah, so today's episode is really about those experiences of embracing change, to let go or be dragged, right? So when things aren't working out and you're just holding on super tight, remember, just take a breath in, let go. Don't let yourself be dragged. Don't let yourself be dragged down. Rest, soften your belly, take some slow breaths, long, slow, deep breaths, and allow yourself to dream, to close your eyes and just allow yourself to rest and to dream and to love yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. So important. It's so important. So I hope you got something from today's episode. I hope that this has been helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section, or you can email me if you don't want it to be public, or DM me. I would love to hear from you. And I wanted to let you know that if you are looking for more support around your creativity, I have the Create Collective, which is specifically for artists, creatives, musicians, heart-centered entrepreneurs who want to be in a supportive environment. We get together every weekday morning on Zoom, and we set intentions at 9 a.m. Eastern. And then we get to work and we don't communicate during that time. And then we get back on for the last 15 minutes and we share what we did, how we did with our tasks that we were intending to do. Some people like to use these for creating their content for social media. Other people like to use it for writing, like this is my time to write. Other people like to use it for creative time. Sometimes people just use it for tidying up and getting the studio back in order or the dishes done or whatever it is. It really doesn't matter. The point is that you're not alone. You're with some creative, some like-minded folks, and you're supported and encouraged in whatever it is you want to do and want to accomplish. And I've been thinking that I might use the time to focus on making art for those 2 hours or 90 minutes. Because I found that in the rest of my day and the busyness of running my businesses, that it's hard to find time to make art. And whether that's art I would share or just art to just like make some crappy work and just be in the process of making work again. And namely, I'm talking about art that by hand, because a lot of my work over the past several years has been computer-based digital work, or like I said before, I'm working with people in real life, in real time. So getting back to making something with my hands and seeing how that feels, where it goes, what it generates, and to just kind of be in flow with that and see what happens. So that's what the Create Collective offers. We have also weekly extra coaching calls, and those are on Thursdays. And we have monthly workshops that have to do with creativity, business, or the art of doing business, and the business of doing art. So that, and then we also have quarterly soirees where we get to actually bring together the work that we've been doing and share it and get feedback if that's what we want. So it's a really amazing community. I love it, and I would love to have you in it if that's something that sounds good to you. You can find out about that at the link in the show notes, or you could go to studiolab11.com, and there should be a page there about it. And I think that's it for today. I am very pleased to be here and to be with you, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So please feel free to share them in whatever way that feels comfortable. And I will be back next week again with the Thriving Creative. And I hope to see you there. Take care.